Hi, I'm Eva Murphy from Electronic Engineering at IT Sligo, and this is my Leaving Cert Maths Grinds channel. I'll regularly add new videos for both higher and ordinary level maths, so make sure you subscribe below and click the bell icon to be notified of new videos. Okay. Right, so the first thing I want to go through with you is differentiation from first principles. Sometimes this gets done first in calculus, sometimes it gets done towards the end. So calculus is the chapter of maths or the branch of maths that deals with slope of a curve. So the first one I have here is what you would have done in the line, what you would have done in junior cert. It's the rate of change of a line, okay, which we more commonly call the slope. And the formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And what do we do? Well, we just select 2 points, any 2 points, and we get the slope between them. Rate of change of a line, slope of a line, that is all the same thing. Why is it so important? Well, you tend to need to know for a lot of stuff how your input changes or how your output changes with respect to your input. So, for example, why in this current day is it so important that we track the rate of change of COVID cases? Okay, it is so important because we need to make sure that there's enough hospital beds, that there's enough ICU beds, that there's enough staff in the hospitals to mind them. Okay, so that is why on a daily basis, the government is tracking the rate of change of COVID. Okay, most things in life though do not follow a straight line, they follow a curve. And this is just an example of a curve. It could very well be COVID, okay? Except if it was COVID, we'd now be up higher. So we started off with low numbers, they grew, they fell off, and now we're back in the growth again. Okay, and that is more typical of most things in the world. They follow some sort of a curve. So that's COVID as an example. Another one could be Apple, could be any phone manufacturer. They would have some sort of a curve as well. It'd look slightly different. So it would be up and then it would fall and then it would up and then a larger fall. Oh, crap. Okay. Let me redraw. So it would be up and then fall and peak and then fall off. Okay, so that is more closely like the rate of change of something like a phone manufacturer. Why? Well, there's a bit of growth at the start, and that's when a new model comes out. Okay. And these are the people who love technology, who will always buy the latest, whatever, and money is not an option. It then tends to drop off sales. This is sales, I should say. Okay. Sorry, this one is sales, and the x-axis is time. Okay. So it tends to drop off, then sales tends to drop off over time. Why? Because the price is too much for a majority of people. So they wait. It then tends to go up, and this is normally when the price point drops and it becomes very, I suppose, in vogue to have that phone, and then it drops off again because normally a new model of phone comes out and takes over. Okay, why do the likes of Apple or Samsung or any phone manufacturer want to know this curve? Well, for lots of reasons, but the main reason be they need to know how much stock they need to manufacture. So super, super important that they know the rate of change of the curve or the slope of the curve. Okay, so that is the branch of maths that is calculus. Very, very important in real life. Except most people don't know that it's calculus that they're doing. Engineering is built on calculus, which is why I suppose it is my bread and butter, because that's my background. What else do I want to say about a curve? Yes, how do we get the slope of a curve? Because if you look across at it, can you see that the slope changes? Okay, so I'm going to get rid of the bottom now because we only need one. So if I look at this curve, can you see that at this point here, it's quite a high slope? We then approach no slope at all. A flat line has a slope of 0. We then have a negative slope. So if we get the slope anywhere along here, we get a minus value. We'd have 0 here again, and then back to positive. So it really does depend on where you are on the x-axis as to what your actual value of slope is. That is why when you get slope, or when you get dy dx, it is typically a formula. Okay, what would we have got for slope of a line? We would typically have got a value. Okay, but for a curve, we get a formula. And the reason we get a formula is because at any point in time, you can sub in that value of x and get the slope just at that particular point. Okay, so at this point 2 here, just at that point, I'm getting an actual slope of 18. Okay, but of course, if I move anywhere left or right at that point, the slope actually changes. Okay, so when you get dy dx, you get a formula which describes the slope of that curve anywhere along. And then when you need slope at a specific point, you sub in that x value and it will give you slope at that point. Okay, so that's the whole branch of maths that is calculus. First principles is where you differentiate something literally from the old theory. So it's kind of, it's a bit akin to doing a proof. So if you remember from junior cert when you did proofs to your theorems, it's a bit long-winded, but it's the fundamental, where did the maths come out of? Okay, so differentiation from first principles is where all the rules of calculus came from. Okay, it's built, it actually comes from the line, okay, and this slope formula. Okay, now how do we apply it in this case? Right, well, the theory states that if I zoom into this curve, and I mean zoom, properly zoom, and just look at a tiny bit of it, can you see between those 2 points, it is practically a straight line. Okay, that's at a point X. This one here, we'll just place that point at a distance h up from it, so that the coordinate of this point then is x plus h. So whatever x was, okay, whatever x value, we go a distance h up from it to get a second value. And then between those 2 points, it is almost a straight line. Now, if I zoom back down again, you can see that that distance h is tiny, okay? And it needs to be tiny to approximate a straight line. Okay? So what do we do? I'm going to mark these points now just a tad bigger so we can actually see them. That's a distance x. Okay, that's a distance h, so that the x coordinate of him becomes x plus h. Okay, I then need y coordinates for my slope formula. So if you think back to functions, if he's x, then he's f of x. Okay, and that's how I get my y. Remember, y is always f of x. Okay, and then this one, if he's x plus h down here, then he's f of x plus h. Okay, why am I doing it with these generic names of x's and x plus h's and f of x plus h's? Because if you can prove the theory for what's called the general case, and the general case is I am picking any value on that curve x, I'm going a distance of h above it, and I'm getting another generic point called x plus h. And then I'm calling my y points also generic names. Then couldn't this formula apply to any point at all along that curve? So when you're proving maths, if you can prove it for the generic case, which doesn't have values, it's kind of the abstract case, then you've proven it for any point at all. Okay, so my 2 points, remember it's x comma y, so x value, f of x, that's 1 point, and my other point is x plus h, comma, f of x plus h. Okay, being this point here is this point, x, f of x, and the upper one is x plus h, f of x plus h. Okay, so there's my 2 points. I'm going to label them x1, y1, x2, y2, and I'm going to sub them in. Okay, so my slope m is equal to y2, so f of x plus h, minus f of x, all over x2 is x plus h, minus x1. Okay, so y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, cancel, cancel. So we get f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. Okay, in calculus we tend to call it dy dx instead of m, or f dash of x. Okay, if f of x is your original function, then the differentiated version of it is f dash x. Or it's dy dx, which means I have differentiated the equation y with respect to x. And I will come back to that again and again as I do calculus. Okay, just move my equals over there. Okay, so remember, if I zoom in, remember what we're doing, we're approximating a straight line. So it looks like a straight line, but as you can appreciate, there's a gentle little curve on that because it's not straight, it's a curve, okay? But if I could make the point, if I could make h, the gap between the 2 points, as close as I could, then it's closer to a straight line. It approximates a straight line even better. Okay? So in maths language, that means that I take h to the limit. So in other words, h approaches 0. So h becomes so small that it's 0.000 something. Okay, it's very close to 0. And that formula there is the formula that we will use for differentiation from first principles. Okay, you don't need normally to be able to derive the formula, which is what I have done here. Okay, you just need to know that formula. That does not appear in the log tables. That is something you have to learn off by heart. Okay. If you've enjoyed this video, then why not join us in IT Sligo and use maths in practice. In conjunction with industry, we've designed an exciting new program in electronics and self-driving technologies, which uses cutting-edge techniques such as artificial intelligence, computer vision, and virtual and augmented reality. You'll need a H5 in maths to qualify. Check out the link below.